Lawmakers here in Atlanta and across Georgia continue to react to the ongoing developments we continue to bring you in the wake of the FBI's execution of a search warrant on the Fulton County election hub a little over, I want to say about 2 weeks ago at this point. But these days have been moving fast and many developments have continued to come out. The latest this week, the federal judge overseeing at least the Georgia portion of the federal government's probe into what it is calling election integrity. Federal judge here in the Northern District of Georgia ordered that the docket be unsealed in this case, and as part of that, the affidavit, the probable cause affidavit in support of the search warrant, became public this week. Now, that affidavit, for those who very understandably are not intimately familiar with the way a criminal search warrant is conducted and whether the criminal justice process works, investigators will use that affidavit to try to convince a magistrate judge that there exists enough evidence to support a finding of probable cause that would in turn allow investigators to carry out a search warrant. A judge in this case did find probable cause and gave investigators the green light, FBI investigators, the green light to carry out that search warrant. Reaction from lawmakers following the unsealing of that affidavit that happened on Tuesday of this week continues to come in. Just a few hours ago, we spoke with U.S. Senator John Ossoff, a Democrat, and asked him about that affidavit.
Earlier this week, the probable cause affidavit in support of the Fulton County election hub search was made public. What's your reaction to that?
What a disgrace when every credible election administration expert I've seen assessing this confirms that it is a hodgepodge of previously investigated and disproven conspiracy theories. Really a low point for the Trump administration to seize Georgians' ballots on that basis. And I think the important question for members of the press like yourself also to be asking is, why was the nation's spy chief, Tulsi Gabbard, overseeing a ballot raid in a battleground state? Truly bizarre and obviously inappropriate for the leader of our country's intelligence agencies to be present for this.
This Democratic U.S. Senator John Ossoff responding to the latest developments in this ongoing situation we are following after the FBI executed a search warrant on the Fulton County election hub. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche was asked by reporters following that Fulton County search warrant, the election hub search warrant, about images, pictures taken on scene showing Tulsi Gabbard outside of the Fulton County election hub. This is what Deputy AG Todd Blanche had to say at a briefing on January 30th.
Could you please explain Tulsi Gabbard's role in DOJ activity regarding the Fulton County search?
What do you mean her role?
It was reported that
she happened to be present in Atlanta. I mean, yes, I saw the same photos you did. I mean, she doesn't work for the Department of Justice or the FBI. She's an extraordinarily important part of this administration. This administration coordinates everything we do as a group, and so I think her presence shouldn't be there shouldn't be questioned. Of course, I mean, that's a big part of her job, and so the fact that she was present in Atlanta that day, is something that shouldn't surprise anybody.
Sean Maxwell.
All right, just two more. Go ahead.
Just following up on that. So are you saying that Gabbard's appearance in that area had nothing to do with the Justice Department action? The fact that
I most certainly did not say that. No, I did not say that. I said that exactly the opposite. I said this administration works closely together in all kinds of different areas, and so I'm not sure if they're surprised at that the administration is working together on things like election integrity. But if there is surprise, let me unequivocally state we are working together as an administration on election integrity type issues, and so that's all I can say about that.
So That's Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, a key member of the leadership group at the Department of Justice. As you heard from Senator John Ossoff to kick off this segment here in his remarks earlier today, it's important to remember Ossoff, a Democrat, is up for re-election this year. He faces 3 prominent Republicans vying for their party's nomination in the May primary. One of them is Congressman Mike Collins, who delivered these remarks in response to the Fulton County Election Hub search on Monday. And critically, we should point out here too, Monday was before the affidavit was unsealed. But this is what Congressman Mike Collins, a Republican, had to say on Monday about the search.
Yeah, you know, it's good, and I've known FBI Director Kash Patel for a long time, and it's good to see that we're going to get some transparency. We deserve transparency in all of our voting, and so it's good to have them come by. You know, we look forward to seeing what they come up with, and that way that puts confidence into our elections process out there.
Congressman Mike Collins, a Republican, one of 3 prominent contenders in the Republican primary race for their party's nomination to go on and challenge Senator John Ossoff in the November general election. We have also heard from the 2 other prominent Republicans in the Senate race just moments ago. I'm looking at my text messages here. Derek Dooley, one of the candidates, Republican candidates for Senate, said this, quote, "Federal law enforcement officials are conducting a lawful investigation. Governor Kemp and our state legislature have enacted reforms to ensure our elections are secure, accessible, and fair, and we must remain vigilant in the future to strengthen confidence in that process." We're also hearing, and you'll forgive me if I'm looking down at my notes here, but we want to read these verbatim. We are also hearing today from Congressman Buddy Carter, who is another Republican running for Senate, a Georgia Republican representing Georgia's 1st Congressional District in the coast, based out of Savannah. This is what Congressman Carter said about 2 hours ago to us. This is a quote. "We are finally getting a proper investigation into the outcome of the 2020 election, which Georgians know was stolen from President Trump. By getting the American people long overdue answers and passing the Save America Act, we will increase confidence in the outcome of our elections, reduce fraud, and protect law-abiding citizens' right to vote." That, again, is what Congressman Buddy Carter, a Republican, had to say this afternoon in response to this latest news of the unsealing of the probable cause affidavit in the search of the Fulton County Election Hub. State lawmakers are also weighing in. We're hearing from Republicans and Democrats on the state level and the municipal level. This is what Senator Greg Dolezal, himself a candidate for statewide office, currently a state senator, Greg Dolezal, a Republican, had to say earlier this week.
There are some things that we certainly can do legislatively. There's been bills that have been bounced back and forth in terms of what we do. The voters in Georgia need to vote on a paper ballot. It's the only way that they will have trust. We passed a law to get rid of the QR codes. The Secretary of State has no plan on how he's going to do that, despite the fact that we passed the law 2 years ago. So we need to get off of the machines, move to the paper ballots. And I'll say this as well, from the new law perspective. I believe that we need to have stricter laws on the enforcement of our voter rolls. I believe that if we find that counties are not maintaining their voter rolls as they're required to under state law, it should be an automatic trigger for the state to take over their elections.
That's Senator Greg Dolezal, State Senator Greg Dolezal, a Republican. Let's hear now from Rob Pitts, who is the chairman of the Fulton County Commission and has been a vocal supporter of the way that, in his view, Fulton County handled its 2020 election. This is Fulton County Commission Chairman Rob Pitts delivering these remarks at a Fulton County Commission meeting just hours ago today.
Well, Madam Chair, members of BRE, I just took a few notes while I was sitting here listening. And I want to say, first of all, that I take all of the comments that were made this morning very seriously. But there are a couple of errors, and one in particular recently. Richard Barron, first of all, was not fired. I asked Richard Barron to resign, personally asked him to resign, because there was so much controversy And I thought that as long as he remained in that position, because I thought he was doing a great job, and I still thought he did a great job, but that as long as he resigned in that position, there was going to continue to be controversy on both sides of what with respect to how he was performing. So it was at my request that he resigned. He gracefully resigned. I want to clarify that. Also, on Election Day, I visit probably 50 precincts. The reason I go to those precincts is to observe, talk to the managers, to tell me personally, as chair of the Board of Commissioners, any problems, is the equipment working properly? Any issues whatsoever, let me know as chair. Never has anyone brought to my attention any issues of any wrongdoing, anything crooked, underhanded. Now, I've been involved personally in a number of elections throughout my political career. And I'll say to you and the public that there's no such thing as a perfect election. There's always a possibility of mechanical failure. There's always a possibility of human error. Those things happen. But that aside, as long as I've been here, I've watched elections, and I am not aware, nor have I been involved in, of any organized effort on the part of anybody at Fulton County to circumvent the law, to manipulate elections, anything of that nature. And I said it before, and I will continue to say it as long as I'm here, and I certainly plan to be here. Now, with respect to the FBI raid, and I have no issue whatsoever with the men and women of the FBI. They were doing their jobs, and they do their jobs very well, and I support what they do and what they did. But they were there at the direction of someone. That night on January 28th, I was there along with you, Madam Chair, and our county attorney. I was in my office working, because my job is full-time, received a call from our elections hub that the FBI is here. So I immediately called our county attorney. She and I drove to the elections hub for two reasons. First of all, to make sure that our employees were safe, but number two, to make sure that we were complying with everything that the FBI asked us to do. When I got there, I saw that what was going on, and let me talk about the warrant for a minute. The first warrant, that in fact, in the first instance, there was no warrant. Then one of the employees had the good sense to ask for a warrant. Then one of the agents produced a warrant, which was not correct, so they had to go back and correct it. It was signed by a judge, I believe, in Missouri, not from the Northern District of Georgia. They finally got that corrected, and the raid, if you want to call it a raid, that they began to do their jobs. And it's my understanding that some 700 boxes were removed from our warehouse. And what I said to that night, and I'll say again today, as long as those records were in the custody of Fulton County in that very secure warehouse, and it is very secure, they were safe and secure. No confidential information was leaked, none of that happened. But the moment that that last FBI truck pulled away from our elections hub, I have no idea, as I stand before you today, where those records are. I have no idea who has those records. I have no idea what they're doing with those records. So we, Fulton County, can no longer be responsible for anything that's happened with those records since the night of January 28th, when the last FBI truck left left Union City. Now, since then, I filed a suit, federal court. It's styled Rob Pitts et al. Versus the United States of America. I filed it for two reasons. Number one, to ask that the items, documents that were confiscated by the FBI, that they be returned to Fulton County. The court has not ruled on that yet. Second issue, we ask that the affidavit that was used by the FBI to secure the warrant, that it be unsealed. That, in fact, happened on Tuesday of this week. And in reading the document, the affidavit, if anyone reads it, from, in my opinion, not an attorney, but it's not worth the paper that it was printed on. It simply rehashes some of the same statements that have been made here today. And it's also been stated here today that the 2020 elections have been audited. They've been reviewed. They've been looked at from A to Z. And I'm not aware of any findings, serious negative findings regarding the 2020 elections. For some reason, many people, including the White House, are still focused on 2020. 2020 elections are over. Our current president, he is our president, he's my president, he's your president, but he lost the 2020 election.
That is Fulton County Commission Chairman Rob Pitts delivering those remarks today following the latest development in this case, the unsealing of the probable cause affidavit that was in support of the search warrant that was executed in the Fulton County election hub just a couple weeks ago now. Another person we are hearing from, we heard from him earlier this week on Tuesday. I'm going to read you this quote again, is the Secretary of State. It's Brad Raffensperger. He's a Republican. As Secretary of State, he oversees the state's election processes. He was the Secretary of State back in 2020 during the general election. He is still the Secretary of State now. He's also a Republican who is running for governor. This is what Raffensperger had to say on Tuesday following the unsealing of that probable cause affidavit. This is a quote. As Secretary of State, I've made Georgia the safest and most secure place to vote. Instead of wasting time and tax dollars trying to change the past with baseless and repackaged claims, let's focus our efforts on building a safer, more affordable future for all hardworking Georgians.